This is Worldview Report with host Brannon Howse.
A new investigative report warns that conservative-led states are quietly implementing radical leftist policies, including DEI mandates, ESG, investing standards, and gender ideology. We'll explain how it works right under our noses and totally under the radar of even the conservative media. Slay News reports that a new report warns that conservative-led states are quietly implementing radical leftist policies, including DEI mandates, ESG investing standards, and gender ideology. So why is this happening? The report cites the influence of powerful national bureaucratic associations that are operating behind the scenes. The shadow government report was released by the State Leadership Initiative. And in the report, this group, SLI, argues that unelected national associations are embedding progressive agendas into state agencies, regardless of voter preference or which party holds political power. Conservative leaders, well, they are fond of declaring victory, according to the report, that added, quote, they win elections, pass legislation, and appoint agency heads with great fanfare. Yet, on issue after issue, the administrative state trudges forward in open defiance of their mandate, enforcing equity initiatives, embedding climate policy, and advancing bureaucratic priorities wholly alien to the voters who ostensibly elected the government. This disconnect is not incidental. It is structural, end quote. The SLI's review of 23 major state-led organizations found that nearly all promote left-wing priorities through so-called best practices, policies and frameworks, and distribution of federal funds. Named groups, well, they include the National Association of State Treasurers, the National Association of Medicaid Directors, and the National Association of State Boards of Education. Every single one of these associations pushes DEI. So said SLI founder and president Noah Wall. This is what he said in a statement, quote, it doesn't matter how specific, whether it's a fish and wildlife group or a Treasury Department, DEI is a core part of their programming, end quote. Well, now it's time for our nightly Worldview Report commentary. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced on Tuesday that the United States is actively working to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. In an interview with Sid Rosenberg on Sid and Friends in the Morning, Rubio was asked about support New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani is receiving from groups such as the Muslim Brotherhood. Rosenberg pressed Rubio on whether the administration would move to officially designate the group and possibly the Council on American Islamic Relations as terrorist entities. Quote, yeah, all of that is in the works, end quote. That's what Rubio said, noting that the Brotherhood operates in multiple branches, each requiring its own designation. He stressed that the process is lengthy and must be thorough, but confirmed that it is a priority. Here's what he said, quote, we are constantly reviewing for groups to designate for what they are, supporters of terrorists, maybe terrorists themselves. We haven't done this in a long time, so we've got a lot of catching up to do. And you've mentioned a couple names, particularly the Muslim Brotherhood, that are of grave concern, end quote. Well, folks, this should have been done years ago. I can remember as far back as 2008 and 2009, when people like, well, former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann were pushing for the Muslim Brotherhood to be declared a foreign terrorist organization. Do you remember how some of her colleagues, well, ridiculed her for that? The truth is, the government, well, they have all the evidence they need to do this. So, we are thankful they're looking into it. And we're thankful the Trump administration may indeed do what should have been done a long time ago. Now, I would highly suggest they get a hold of the Muslim Brotherhood Explanatory Memorandum. That's one of many documents, folks, that was seized in an FBI raid at a Northern Virginia Muslim Brotherhood safe house. You see, the document, we've been talking about it for years. It's in my documentary, Siege, Sabotage, and so much more. The document, well, it clearly shows that the Muslim Brotherhood has a plan to take over America. The document says they will get Americans to use their own hands to destroy their own house, referring to America, to destroy us from within. Well, Muslim Brotherhood, they were founded in Egypt in 1928 by Hassan al-Banna with the explicit intention of spreading Islam and Sharia, that's Islamic law, across the globe. Mostly, of course, through cultural jihad, but also through well-timed acts of terror. The Brotherhood, well, they've had a presence, particularly on every U.S. college campus in some form of another. The Muslim Student Association would be one such organization. Upwards of 80% of American mosques, well, we're told they have ownership that traces back to the Muslim Brotherhood. Just ask former federal agent Dave Gobbets, who's been a guest on my broadcast, Brannon Howse Live, many times. He's gone undercover in over 425 mosques in America. This organization, folks, it's more than dangerous to America's national security. In fact, some say it's more dangerous than Iran will ever be because it operates by stealth and it has embedded itself inside all of our major cultural institutions, including education, law, the military, and legislative and executive branches of government. No doubt about it. And yet, we hardly hear anything about them from members of Congress. We don't hear much about them from Republican administration. So, maybe Senator Marco Rubio should call Michelle Bachmann. Maybe he should call me, because I've spent years documenting Muslim Brotherhood, CARE, Hamas. In fact, I have 11 one-hour TV shows that I produced on Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, CARE. We stand more than willing to help Secretary of State Marco Rubio gather all the details and information he needs to finally classify this group for what they are.